Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Maggie Van Scoy from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I am your Beacon Hill, Back Bay, Fenway, Kenmore, and Mission Hill liaison. I'll be admitting people as I say this. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I do want to emphasize that I am here tonight to facilitate this statutorily required cannabis community outreach. This is an application at 551 Boylston Street operated by the Copley Connection. This meeting is scheduled until 8 p.m. Any comments that there were not time for can be emailed to me afterwards in the Cannabis board. I will put my email in the chat. Before we start, I would like to go over my expectations for tonight's meeting. I know that this can be a sensitive topic. I want to make it clear that no decisions are being made tonight, and at no time will it be acceptable to be disrespectful to anyone during the meeting. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. There is no right or wrong opinion. We are here tonight to try and collect as many comments, questions, or concerns for this proposal. I am not here to facilitate debates amongst neighbors or to relitigate state legislation. I ask that all questions be directed towards the applicant and myself only. The applicant will answer all questions related to their proposal to the best of their ability, and I will answer questions regarding the city's process. City holds a meeting, which is this one, then they proceed to the Cannabis Board, then to the Cannabis Control Commission at the state level. If I am unable or the applicants are unable to answer a question tonight, we will follow up with you after the meeting to get that information for you. This is an open comment period, meaning that if you do not get called on tonight, or if you think of questions that have not been answered, all you need to do is reach out to us and we'll work to get you that information. My contact information has been included on the flyer you received to attend this meeting. As mentioned, I will also add it into the chat. There will be no questions during the presentation. Once again, this is not a debate on the legalization or morality of cannabis. That debate occurred at the ballot box, and we are here today because it was overwhelmingly supported in the city. The applicant will go through the presentation in a timely manner, and the remainder of time will be for Q&A. Each person will have a maximum of 2 minutes to speak. I will be timing each, and once the 2 minutes have passed, I will then move on to the next question. You are allowed to re-enter the queue, though, after by raising your hand again. Thank you for taking the time to participate in tonight's meeting. I will now hand it over to the applicants for the presentation. I also want to mention that all debate happenings should be directed towards the applicant in testimony. I don't want to be monitoring the chat during this meeting. You can let me know about technical issues you're having or anything like that via chat. That would be a good way to use it. But with that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. If you go to the next slide, please. Okay. Good evening. My name is Josh Zakum. Judging by the folks here, I know many of you and have worked together over the years. Excited to see everyone here and to introduce you to the Copley Connection and our team. My partner and co-founder in this is Senam Kumahia. And our consultant and advisor on getting these things set up is Victor Chang. Senam and I are the co-founders of the company. As I mentioned, advised by Victor. We have a long history in this neighborhood in particular and across the city. This is our home. Next slide, please. That's me in my younger somewhat slimmer years, but as I said, my name is Josh Zakum, a former city councilor, been a resident of the Back Bay for well over a decade. I've been involved in many neighborhood groups with many of the folks on this call. I currently live directly across Copley Square from the proposed location with my wife, Grace, and 2 small children, and intend to stay in this neighborhood, both obviously as a business owner, as an active, civically engaged citizen. Next slide, please. Senam is a first-generation American. He was born in Boston, and along with his wife, Lara, Senam is a former active member of NAB and committee member. He's a former board chair of the Boston Renaissance School and the Huntington Y. He currently lives with his wife and family in Dorchester, where he serves on the board of the Boys and Girls Club. Next slide, please. Victor is our industry consultant. He's an experienced COO and business owner. Victor currently operates a retail cannabis dispensary in Newton, preparing to open one in Natick. He is an expert in retail and management of the cannabis business and is a board member of the Mass Cannabis Business Association. And next slide, please. I turn over to Senam.
Thank you so much, Josh. So as you're aware, our proposed location is 551 Boylston Street. It's the former Wendy's restaurant located right, as we said, on Boylston Street. It's zoned for Back Bay commercial use, and it's about 6,400 square feet over 3 floors. Next slide, please. As it relates to the location, there's one dispensary that's within the half-mile buffer located further up Boylston Street. We believe that this is a strong location because of the high density of retail foot traffic, between the individuals who are coming to the Back Bay who are coming to the Back Bay to shop, to work, to live. We believe it's a strong location for a number of reasons. If you could, next slide, please. So again, one of the strengths of this location is its public access. It's easily walkable. There are a number of train stations within walking distance. There are a number of blue bike stations, bus stops, and parking lots. So again, for these reasons, we think it's a strong location with respect to public access. Speaking about the property itself, as I mentioned, 6,400 square feet. The first floor, it will have an indoor security desk with a lot of space so that there's no queuing out on the sidewalk. Our design team is going to have a great setup where we're going to engage a local artist, maybe someone from Artists for Humanity or another local group that will help beautify the entrance. There'll be no cannabis merchandising that's going to be visible to Boylston Street. They'll have express pickup. And again, because we have enough space on the interior, there won't be any loitering on the street and there won't be any nuisance to the neighboring businesses. Next slide, please. The primary retail space for customers will be upstairs in the space. It's elevated from the ground level. Again, you won't see any cannabis merchandising whatsoever from Boylston Street, and there'll be no frosted glass required there. The basement, which we aren't showing on this plan, that's where our back of house space will be. That'll be accessible from the rear alley. That's where we'll have all of our deliveries. That's where we'll store product. That's where a number of our back of house operations will be conducted. Next slide, please.
I'll take this. So the retail experience is centered around customer education for today's cannabis product. Products today are more potent and come in more varied forms for consumption. So we want to ensure our customers have a great experience by understanding the product they're purchasing, how to safely consume them, and how to safely and securely store their products. The goal will be to build an open, warm, inviting retail environment where the canna curious will be comfortable to come in and learn. Next slide. Given the co-founders' long history of servicing Boston and particularly this neighborhood, they're fully committed to being great corporate neighbors. They know it's important to the neighborhood with the other dispensaries and similar liquor stores to not sell nips, so they're committing to not selling individual pre-rolls. Trash will be kept in locked and secure dumpsters with regular pickup, so that we'll have no rodent impact. And our outside security staff will ensure customers do not double park in Boylston Street out front, trying to do a quote quick pickup. The security would let those customers know they're not permitted to double park and will not allow them into the store until they move their vehicle. Next slide.
Oh, excuse me. As Victor and Senem both mentioned, we are committed to being a good neighbor and making a positive impact on the community. Providing benefits beyond a vacant storefront that exists there now is incredibly important to us. As I mentioned, I live just across the street. Senem, former longtime and active Back Bay resident. Victor's office is a block west on Boylston Street. We're going to make sure that this is a welcoming, clean, and safe location. As I mentioned, I live with my wife and small children who pass this location at least twice every day, going to and from school. Obviously, as we are very directed to Copley Square Park, directly across the street from it, and a lot of our benefits and activities are going to be focused there. We are going to be working with the Parks Department, Friends of Copley Square, and other stakeholders to make significant and sustained contributions to the park. These are certainly include, but aren't going to be limited to providing additional maintenance shifts, volunteer activity days, and financial contributions to the park cleanup. Cleanliness and access along Boylston Street. Obviously, it's a busy retail corridor. As part of our regular operations, we plan to assign staff to monitor and regularly clean up the public spaces in front of our location. In coordination with Boston Public Works, we would look to supply and service additional trash receptacles that the public can use. While we don't expect a lot of rubbish to be generated by our activity at our store, we do know that that's a busy place. There's a lot going on, and want to do that and be beneficial, and conducting monthly staff volunteer days to clean up in Copley Square along with us as the owners. Transportation, Senna mentioned earlier, Copley Connection location is uniquely well served by public transit and cycling infrastructure. We're going to encourage all of our guests and employees to walk, bike, or take transit to the location. We will provide a transit subsidy and complimentary Blue Bike memberships to employees, provide bike parking for customers and employees. And as you already heard, but I think bears repeating, our outdoor security staff at the entrance will not permit any customer to double park on Boylston Street. They will simply be denied access to the store until they move their vehicle. As far as public safety goes, certainly once operational, our location is going to be monitored 24/7 by high-resolution security cameras, retaining those tapes for use by law enforcement if in the unfortunate case that's necessary. During our open hours, there'll be dedicated security staff tasked with ensuring there's no loitering in or around the entrance. Next slide, please.
So we at the Copley Connection, we strongly believe in hiring, retaining, and promoting folks from diverse racial, cultural, and socioeconomic backgrounds. We really think that it's important to have a staff and leadership that reflects the diversity of the city of Boston. So as you'll see on the slide, these are our hiring goals at a minimum, to have 75% Boston residents, 50% minorities, 50% women, and so forth. And we really believe that Copley Connection would be a strong place for providing careers in the cannabis industry, not just as a job, and making sure that we really establish clear paths for promotion throughout the organization.
On security, our store will meet all CCC requirements for safety and security, which means this will be more secure retail location than a bank. We'll engage an experienced third-party security company to design and implement the security system. All of our employees will be registered agents of the Cannabis Control Commission, which includes background checks. All visitors and customers will be ID'd both upon entrance and at time of purchase, so they'll be carded twice. And we'll have numerous SOPs to prevent diversion of any cannabis products, which includes multiple daily inventory counts and fully weekly audits of all inventory and products, as well as having our our outside security ensure there isn't customers trying to divert product. Next slide. Our security system will be state-of-the-art, which will include full video surveillance with 90 days video storage, glass break, motion detectors, 24/7 alarm monitoring, and panic alarms. The proposed site is well suited for secure and safe delivery of product. Product deliveries will come through the real alley, which grades down, so the doorway in the back will have direct access to our vault. Deliveries will be scheduled at least 24 hours in advance, where we will receive a shipment manifest. Deliveries are, as delivery vehicles are approaching 20 to 30 minutes out, they'll contact our inventory manager. At this point, our security team will perform a sweep of the delivery area to ensure there are no issues. If anything was identified, we'd simply have the delivery vehicle reschedule its scheduled time for delivery. Assuming there are no deliveries, security personnel will meet the delivery vehicle and will escort the delivery driver and their product into our secure receiving room in the basement level. Our team will do a count and weigh of all delivery products to ensure it matches the manifest, and then we'll escort the driver back to their vehicle. And the vehicle will always have has two registered agents in it, so the driver actually never leaves the vehicle. Next slide. The Copley Connection, we're fully committed that all customers will be 21 plus. This begins with training of our security team, the use of VeriSign, which is an ID scanning system similar to what you see at TSA at the airport. So we'll scan all driver's license. The system will be able to scan all states, most international driver licenses, military IDs. If the scanner can't confirm an ID, we'll ask for secondary ID to provide proof of age. Otherwise, we will deny entry. I'll turn it over to Senham to conclude.
Sure. So in summary, thanks, Victor. You know, as Josh mentioned at the outset, all of us are local to Boston. We have a strong desire to maintain a good relationship with the neighbors in the neighborhood. We're locally owned and operated. We do have a strong background in giving and working with the city of Boston. And, you know, this is a strong location for a number of reasons. It's a great retail location. We'll be able to accommodate all of the customers inside of the space, so there's no impact to the neighboring businesses or the sidewalk. The high retail location in terms of folks walking, biking, and public access, again, makes it a strong location. And we strongly feel that the Copley connection would be a great addition to this neighborhood. So with that, we'll conclude and turn it over to Maggie.
Your questions.
Great. Oop, sorry. Awesome. So if you would like to provide testimony, you will be limited to 2 minutes at a time, but you can raise your hand using the reactions function at the bottom of the screen. Okay. Yassine, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. I just asked you to unmute. Okay. You can go ahead if you'd like.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't recognize my name. I'm Jackie Yassine, and I'm a member of the board of the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay. We appreciated Josh's capable representation as our city councilor. However, we don't support this application. I have the points that the NAB License and Building Use Committee prepared. It has to do with, by state law, the cannabis dispensary cannot be within 500 feet of a school. And this location is 498 feet away from the Snowden School as the crow flies, but it's 730 feet door to door, which is how the minimum distance would be apparently defined by the Cannabis Commission. The committee is concerned that even if the location were technically beyond the 500-foot distance, conceptually, it's still very close to the school, and the intent of the law was not to have dispensaries too close to schools. In fact, this location is in a nearly direct route between the Snowden's main Newbury facility and their auxiliary location at 140 Clarendon, and it's used regularly by students. At different times of the day, you'll see groups of students going in one direction or the other. Point 2, the half-mile distance from another dispensary is also part of the law, but that can be overridden by the Board of Appeals. And in fact, rooted in Roxbury, soon to open at 331 Newbury, and we did not oppose it. It was granted that zoning variance by the ZBA, even though it was within a half a mile from Air. NAB was okay with an exception for the half a mile buffer because in this case, rooted in Roxbury is an equity applicant and Copley Connection is not. Some committee members.
Excuse me, sorry, that was 2 minutes. If you want to go ahead and raise your hand again to finish testimony, that would be the best way to do that. Okay, Jax, I will move on to you. I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, everybody. I'm also a NAB member. I did not oppose for LBU or as a member of the NAB community. I think that this is a great opportunity for the neighborhood. It's going to bring in maximum income for our city and our state as other cannabis businesses have. I know Josh and Senham personally. They're great guys, family men. They've done a lot for the community. And I know they're going to put their best foot forward to help and bring up this community as much as possible. I believe we all discussed that the as the crow flies rule, it is within the city's approval. So I don't have any issues with that. I do think that the other half of the neighborhood, if somebody is medically in pain and they need cannabis, they're not going to walk all the way up to rooted in Roxbury and they're not going to walk to Air. So I do think that this will serve a different consumer, not only just people visiting the area, but also that area of the neighborhood where we do have some other people that wouldn't be going that far for cannabis. So I do not oppose, and I believe that this is a great business opportunity for our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. If you'd like to go.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. My name is Patrick McDonough. I live at 64 Myrtle Street, apartment 2, Boston, Mass. 02114. And I'm here to support the proposal for Josh and his team for this business. And I believe Josh and his team will do a great job, and I support the proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Patrick. And you reminded me of a critical point. Jax, can I get you to unmute and tell us your address?
Excuse me.
Sorry about that. I'm at 381 Com 02115.
Perfect, thank you. And then, I'm sorry, this pronunciation, I'm embarrassed, but Miss Yessian?
Yes, that's good. Yes.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to continue your testimony also, I know you had more, but could you also state your address
That's
for the
okay.
record?
160 Commonwealth Avenue in the Back Bay.
Okay.
So I almost got finished the second point. Some committee members felt that the Copley connection was too close even to air. On point 3, the committee is also concerned about the location being across from Copley Square Park, which would be a convenient place for your customers to go smoke right after purchasing. Although I know that you plan to have security personnel, but it's a huge park to monitor. Also, this block has been considered unattractive because of the storefronts and the fast food places and the lining up of people to pick up chicken and banks and CVS, and it's fairly blank. Our impression is that the storefront would add to the bleakness of the block because the front door must be opaque. You talked about that, but I didn't quite know what you were talking about. And with no product advertising, and that's very good, but it's still not a lively storefront.
Good.
And fourth, do you want to answer that, Josh?
I can
We
wait till you're
can
done. I thought you
wait
were
until
done, Jackie. Sorry.
Fourth, this block has always struggled retail wise, and subjectively it's blighted by these storefronts. I've already said that, so I guess that's a repeat.
Maggie.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Josh, would you like to respond?
Yeah. Sorry, Jack, you were done, right?
Now I am, yeah.
Okay. So I think that's a good point. And one of the reasons we think this is such an important site is that it needs activation and it needs some color, liveliness. And I think Senna mentioned it earlier on, is that we are playing a contract with local artists to create some lively art on the storefront and have glass windows that are visible or transparent, I should say, because, and Victor may talk a little bit more about this on the technical aspects, is that before the security checkpoint, you are allowed to have transparency to the street and activating that space and having art. Certainly no advertising, no cannabis products of any kind, but livening that up and making it a pleasant experience is a big reason why we think this location and this facility itself is so important.
Yeah, just from a CCC design, right? You can't see into any product or transaction, but because we've designed it where we have an entry vestibule where people can queue to have their ID checked, they will then, once their ID is checked, they'll get buzzed in through a secure door, or, all of the cannabis product is behind that doorway. So the whole front, the former Wendy's, like the glassed-in area up front where they used to have counter space, that will be our queuing. We'll be able to design in artwork so that it will be a glass front. Customers will be able to view in and see the artwork. And that, that will be the how we'll try to beautify, as well as trying to improve some of the rest of the facade itself. But it won't be frosted windows. We're not going to board it up and have like a dark enclosed in space, because we don't need to for compliance reasons.
Okay, thank you. We will go to Caroline. Also, Patrick, I believe you provided testimony already. I'm not sure if you have another question, but if you want to lower your hand if you are done providing testimony. Okay, thank you. All right, Caroline.
Hi, good evening. I'm Caroline Humphrey. I am speaking in support of this project. I was
Sorry,
born.
would you also mention your address? Sorry,
I sure can. It's 15 Sleeper Street.
Great.
I was born and raised in Back Bay. My family still lives there, just on Comm Ave, so just around the corner. I know Josh and Senham personally. I know that they have strong ties to the community, that they will work with and contribute to the community. I think we have to be careful about being judge and jury. The ZBA and IC will make the determinations, not the community. And I think, they're really going to do a lot for the community. And I agree that area of Back Bay really needs a resurgence. And, I think they're the right people to do the job. And I think that, the buffer zone is really not up to us to make that determination. So I just wanted to, say my support for the project, and I look forward to seeing, how it all comes to fruition.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to move on to Elizabeth. If you'd like
Hi,
to
my
go.
name is Elizabeth. Did you need the address?
Yes, please. Everybody state your name and address if you're providing testimony. Thank you so much.
56 Commonwealth Avenue.
Great. Thank you.
And so I think I'm 2 blocks from the proposed site. I'm also on the Back Bay Neighborhood Association. I appreciated the group's time in explaining the project to us. And we did, as a group, strongly oppose this project for many reasons. And thank you for those who have already spoken about those. I won't restate those points. But the one that I don't think has been spoken about yet is safety. Back Bay is where we all live, and cannabis dispensaries have been increasingly unsafe. And it sounds like there's a lot of safety procedures in place, which is great, but nothing that's been stated has been above and beyond what the Cannabis Control Commission requires of all dispensaries. And the Cannabis Control Commission earlier this year issued a statement explaining that there are more break-ins and safety issues. So I just wanted to add that as an additional point, besides the park and the parking that we anticipate to be an issue. Double parking on that street's already a huge problem. And the many other things that have been spoken about. Safety is a concern of mine.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Would the project team like to respond?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Happy to. One, I think the data is pretty clear that, Victor mentioned in the original presentation that these locations are amongst the safest retail in the state for sure, if not the country, given all the requirements. And just even beyond that, on a more emotional, personal level, I live, Elizabeth, I think you said you live 2 blocks away. I live a block away. My 4-year-old on his way to school every day is passing this location at least twice, if not more, when he's out and about. I don't think anything is more important to me than the safety and cleanliness of this location. Hope that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, if you wouldn't mind lowering your hand, and then if you have additional testimony, you can re-raise it and be added back into the speaker queue. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask for Anne to unmute and provide testimony if she'd like.
Hi, I'm Ann Earhart, 2G Street. Going to keep this brief. I have a cold that got home from daycare. I own a retail consulting and leasing company called Everstreet. I've worked in Boston in the Back Bay for close to 20 years, bringing many, many retailers to the city. I support this project. I think it's great to have a local business operation represented in Copley Square in the Back Bay, where so much of the retail tends to be national or international. I think this will be a great use for the neighborhood.
Thank you, Anne. Okay. I'm going to ask Paula Jane first. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And Anne, if you could lower your hand if you're finished with testimony. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi. I live at 90 Com Ave. And it sounds like a lot of planning's gone into this store to make it as nice as possible, but it's still a cannabis store. I don't want to have a cannabis store right around the corner from me. We already have lots of people walking around smoking marijuana up and down the Commonwealth Mall, up and down the streets. You walk behind them and you smell it. And it seems not reasonable to me that the park, the Copley Square, is not going to become a place that people will be gathering and smoking. It may not be legal to smoke in public places, I'm not even sure, but people do a lot of things that are outside the law in terms of they walk against traffic lights, they bike and use rollerblades on the Commonwealth Mall, even though the signs say you can't do that. So if it's, may not be allowed, but that doesn't stop people from doing that kind of behavior. And I don't want to see Copley Square have even more people sitting around lighting up and have that become kind of a gathering place, which I think that could likely happen. So again, I appreciate all the planning that's gone into it and trying to make it a something, an asset for the community. But as a member of the community, I'll have to say I do not see it as an asset. I see it in the other direction as a detriment to our neighborhood. So I'm done.
Thank you for your testimony. If you could lower your hand. And then, Sunam, if you'd like me to unmute you, you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Would the team like to respond? Or you don't have to, but okay.
Sam, if you were going to say something, or Victor, but.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I would say, public consumption is always a concern, right? I mean, I think as an operator of an existing dispensary, it's something we're always conscientious of. We're always like monitoring the neighborhood. The reality is, to your point, it's happening today. We are obviously not the source of it, since we are not operating here in the Back Bay. So, I mean, I guess I don't know if there are broader discussions with the existing operators on what they're doing to prevent this public consumption. I think we would always, as residents of the neighborhood, we would always be ready and willing to engage and be there to support in any way we can to, ensure that people understand it's illegal to consume publicly. We will always put signage up in that. We always remind customers of it in the store that I'm operating now. So, there are things that we definitely are very active with our communities that we're in terms of trying to educate customers that that's just not permitted, right? Again, if it's happening today, I guess I'm curious in what kind of the neighborhood has done to reach out with the existing operators.
Okay, thank you, Victor. I'm going to ask Scott to unmute if you'd like to provide testimony.
Excuse me, good evening, Scott Rickards. I represent the owners of 535, 545 Boylston Street. So we're abutting the store. A lot of great testimonies, so thank you. Just really one question, if someone from the team could just talk a little bit more about the security, how that works. Will they be patrolling on the exterior? Currently in that neighborhood, we have lots of problems with drug use, homeless, trying to encamp in doorways, especially in the back alley. So I'd like to just understand how their program will work for their store, obviously, but it's a neighborhood issue.
Is that your only question, Scott?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
thank you. I'm going
Scott,
to
if I can-
mute you. If you have another one, you can raise your hand. Go ahead and respond.
One, Scott, we're more than happy to meet with you. I think you said your clients anytime before, during, or after this process, and we will have outdoor security. But Victor, if you want to address a little more in detail the security plan.
Yeah, I mean, so we definitely will have outdoor security, just given kind of the block and understanding kind of the congestion that the Chick-fil-A is creating today, right? It's something that we're not here to add to, and we also want to make it clear kind of like where our storefront is and, where Chick-fil-A is. That being said, generally the way, we work with our security companies is they will, they're not there to police the neighborhood, to be perfectly clear, right? So if they identify issues, right, their first point of contact is to reach out to Boston PD. Because these are not police officers here that we're engaging. This is private security company. They're here to ensure that our part of Boylston Street is free and clear, that our customers feel safe to enter, and that it's an inviting environment. That said, I will tell you, in our other operations, we definitely work with the neighborhood. We've provided 800 numbers where people in the neighborhood can call us if they're uncomfortable reaching out to the police department. But anytime that we see public consumption, that is our first response, is to call police and ensure that these people understand this is not, it's illegal to smoke in public or to consume marijuana in public. And the other piece that we will do is for anyone that we can identify and it's clear that they are a regular consumer in public, we'll just ban them from the store. It's no different than any liquor store that I think you've been to. It's very easy for them to know people who are problematic for them, and they just simply ban them. So we take the same policy.
Okay, thank you. If anybody else has testimony, feel free to raise your hand. We're prepared to go until 8, so there's enough time. Margaret Picorni, is that good, or providing testimony, or okay? Okay. I will wait. I can unmute you, Margaret, if you'd like. Oh, sorry. I just muted you again. We did it at the same time.
I was gonna say, is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Do you have
Okay.
testimony you'd like to provide?
Yeah, I'm a longtime resident of 384 Marlborough Street for 40 years. I'm currently homeless in Back Bay though, because we sold our house, but I hope I can say something because of my long involvement with the parks, particularly Copley Square. I really applaud the interest that this team has in enhancing and helping enhance and draw attention to the needs of Copley Square. It would be maybe the start of a trend for other businesses along that block to pay attention and also be more active in what happens in Copley Square. The other thing I wanted to say is that I don't think it's fair to hold this group at all accountable for what happens when people go into Copley Square and light up, or about anything. I mean, there are rules against smoking in all the public parks. They are absolutely not enforced in any park. And so I don't think it should be even considered that this team would take any responsibility for that other than calling the police and informing their customers inside the store that that is not an acceptable practice. But there's no way to control that. We've learned that already in the park before they are in business, as they said before. So it's kind of a red herring, but it's the way it is. There is no enforcement of that ordinance, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate on the mall. It's unfortunate in the public garden and the common as well. So it's not just a problem of Copley Square. Although Copley Square is a very attractive place to sit and light up. We can see that. But it's unfair to hold them accountable for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret. Sorry, having trouble muting you. Perfect. Okay. Amazing. If anyone else has testimony, you can raise your hand using the reactions function at the bottom of your screen. Okay. Well, seeing no more hands raised, I am going to adjourn this meeting. I will once again put my email in chat. It's margaret.vanscoy@boston.gov. I will put that in here. This is not the end of this discussion. If you email me, I can get questions answered and get you any information you need as mentioned. Let me just put my email here. Perfect. So as mentioned during the beginning, this is an open comment period, so feel free to contact me. Also, my contact information was on the flyer that you got inviting you to this meeting. I don't know if anybody from the project team wants to say anything, but
Thank you, everyone, for your comments, for being here. We look forward to answering questions. Email us, call, whatever. Certainly, once we're open, we intend to continue the same openness and process, and you can find me walking by almost every day.
And I would just like to add to that and concur with Josh and say thank you all for taking the time to be here. We look forward to our next steps.
okay. And Brian, I see you in chat. I'm sorry that you can't speak and provide testimony. I see that you will at the Boston Cannabis Board. If you'd like to email me with any questions that you have, I can connect you and help you out there. I'm sorry that you're maybe having technical difficulties. Okay.
And thank
great.
you, Maggie, for managing this.
Of course. All right, everybody, have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks once again. Take care. Bye.